Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 43 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010. Tonight we are booking No Surrender, the final pay-per-view before 10-10-10, Bound for Glory, the biggest show in the TNA calendar. As good as that event's going to be, I do think we've got a really strong card for this pay-per-view, and I don't want to waste any time. We are in the Impact Zone as always. We won't be for Bound for Glory, but tonight we are, so let's get into the pay-per-view. And we begin, as is tradition, with a video package designed to promote the big matches on the card, specifically Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, their history taking priority in this video package. The motifs are always fairly similar, no surrender, so it's about the fact that these guys will not give up in their pursuit of the World Heavyweight Championship, or in Kurt Angle's case, to keep it. The video package also touches on the fact that this is the final major show before Bound for Glory, the extra pressure that brings to champions and challengers alike. Bound for Glory 10-10-10 presents an opportunity for wrestlers to immortalise themselves in the history of this great company, and a victory tonight will ensure a spot on that card. A really good segment to open the show. And with that out of the way, we cut to the ring and we see Larry Sweeney, who introduces the two matches that will open the show. Sweeney says that tonight will be a night of celebration as Austin Creed and Kazuchika Okada free two championships from the grasps of Jay Lethal. He says that if he'd known when proposing the champion v champion match at Slammiversary what would follow, he would have never worked so hard to get Heyman to make that match happen. Sure, it made headlines, sure it made all the guys money, but the consequences far outweigh the benefits. Larry is making history again tonight, however, as he always does, as No Surrender goes down as the night that the X Division was reborn, and the night that the Global Championship meant something for the first time since, well, ever. So Sweeney taking a jibe at Jay Lethal and the Global Championship in general as we go into the Global Championship match to open the show, and Jay Lethal picks up a victory over Austin Creed in 10 minutes and 16 with a lethal combination. His fourth defense of the title. It's a good performance from Jay Lethal with a 58. He's not quite at the levels we'd hoped he'd reach just yet, but what we've got planned for him in the next couple of months I think should really help him. Austin Creed with a 47, and there's not a great deal to say. We sent them out to have a competitive opener. The commentators, of course, putting over the history between the two former best friends. They were getting on famously until Austin Creed grew a little bit bitter and jaded and joined Larry Sweeney's stable of clients, but Lethal stands tall after the match. He is handed the Global Championship, has his arm raised, but that's all he gets a chance for just seconds after Kazuchika Okada makes his way down to the ring. We barely get any time between the two matches. Okada running down the ramp, looking to take advantage. Jay Lethal has no complaints. He knows what he was getting himself in for. The double champion is ready to defend his X Division Championship. And throughout the opening match, we were of course talking about the other things that are on the plate of Jay Lethal, namely his girlfriend Maria having gone missing on the last episode of Impact before the pay-per-view. James Mitchell and Abyss seemingly having something to do with that. So not only is that on his mind, but the fact that he has already been in one match. He gives a good fight, but a fresh Okada is just too much for him, and we have a new X Division champion. Kazuchika Okada stands tall. A better performance from Jay Lethal in his second match of the night, perhaps due to the opponent. The biggest win of his TNA career. Okada, the new X Division champion, in a solid second match, a 60 I'm pretty happy with, to be honest. And after the match, Okada stands over the exhausted Jay Lethal. These last months have been so physically, mentally draining in every way for him, and Okada is handed the X Division Championship by Larry Sweeney, who snatches it from the referee. He wants this moment to be his moment as much as it is Okada's. Austin Creed, who spent the match keeled over at ringside trying to recover from his defeat, is encouraged to join them in the ring, with Larry Sweeney arranging a photo op for the new champion. Austin Creed is reluctant but enters the ring, him and Larry Sweeney standing either side of the new X Division champion. Say what you want about Larry Sweeney, but at the end of the day, he gets things done, and we have a new X Division champion just before Bound for Glory. And while he did win one of his matches and retain the global championship. We are putting over that tonight hasn't been a great night for Jay Lethal, and it goes from bad to worse as we cut to a dark room and see James Mitchell watching an old television set. Mitchell says that he's watching and he sees Jay Lethal's world falling apart around him, and Mitchell likes what he sees. Karma is a bitch, and Jay Lethal is getting what he deserves for taking something that doesn't belong to him. As for Maria, nobody needs to worry about her. Abyss is keeping her very safe. James Mitchell then does his maniacal evil laugh, and that is just reminding everybody that while Jay Lethal does have his championships to defend, there's also that personal issue that is ongoing and will continue to develop, of course, over the next few months. We then go into the third match of the night, and it's a really good match. Two very good performances from AJ Styles 87 and Desmond Wolfe with an 80. The commentary letting us down, but it's good to see that these two have good chemistry and that lifts the match. They had a match on pay-per-view, I think on the second pay-per-view of the year, so I already knew that they had good chemistry, but of course I'd forgotten. We got the crowd buzzing because I think I set this as a steal the show match. These two guys are really good, so you send them out to put on as good a match as they possibly can, and AJ Styles picks up the victory with a phenomenal forearm. Again, it stays Styles Clash. I have set phenomenal forearm as one of his finishers, but the game just randomly chooses, so he catches Wolfe off guard with a shot to the jaw. We are trying to establish that for a specific reason as one of his finishers, the phenomenal forearm putting Desmond Wolfe away. AJ Styles will be delighted with that, and he stands tall following the victory, but he's not done. He asks for a microphone before he leaves the ring. He once again has a very clear message for the two competitors in the main event. Whether it's Kurt Angle or Samoa Joe, whoever walks out with a title, AJ Styles wants to face the World Heavyweight Champion at Bound for Glory. He lost the title at Lockdown back in April and has never received the rematch that is owed to him, so he very much has a strong claim. Not only that, he's come back and beaten Paul London, beaten Desmond Wolfe, so AJ Styles is on top of his game, and an 87 is very encouraging for that reason. Mauro and Taz then turn attention to the upcoming World Tag Team Championships match. It's not up next, but it's later on down the line, and we're just mentioning that to introduce footage from earlier today. Beer Money were shown attempting to enter the building, only to be stopped by the security. They were informed that they are barred from the Impact Zone tonight, with the instruction coming right from the top. Of course, Beer Money were the ones who attacked Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, causing the initial injury. Bad Influence themselves played a part in Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team not being cleared for tonight, but the primary cause of those injuries were James Storm and Robert Roode, and for that reason they have not been allowed in the building tonight. We then go to an interview with Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, who are in attendance despite being unable to compete. Charlie Haas says that he still doesn't know for sure, but he has a feeling that Bad Influence were responsible for the attack on him a couple of weeks ago. We had confirmation at that time that Beer Money had left the building and an isolated Charlie Haas was taken out. They were the ones who had the most to gain from it, so it does make sense. Tonight, however, they are not focusing on what happened in the past. They're focused on the future, specifically getting fit and hoping to be cleared in time for Bound for Glory. WGTT are ready to face the World Tag Team Champions, whoever they are, at the biggest show of the year. Both guys doing really well, advancing the storyline and doing a really good job of improvising. Very, very happy with them as we go into a Tag Team Championship match, albeit the Knockouts Tag Team Championships match. And it's a match that has decent reaction, but apparently it's subpar wrestling. Always seems a bit harsh to me, but the New Age retain their titles. Pretty straightforward. 9 minutes and 34. It says order of elimination. That's just a case of the default 2v2v2 having an elimination. This was a 1-4 to a finish match, and the victory came when a heart attack was hit by the New Age to Daphne. A decisive, clean victory for the New Age, a 48 from Mischief, a 54 from Alyssa Flash, not too good from DNR, and the Beautiful People also putting in solid performances, great chemistry, the commentary helping, Jacob's doing a good job at ringside, so I think that's an okay match, happy with that. And we advance the New Age storyline there as well. And we keep that going with the post-match segment. The New Age standing tall in the ring. Alyssa Flash and Mischief still the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. And they are joined by Jimmy Jacobs, Mick Foley and Roderick Strong. Foley then takes a microphone and says that he is delighted to announce to everybody that the ink is dry. Everything is signed, sealed and delivered. Jimmy Jacobs applauds Foley and adds that it is fantastic to have Roderick Strong on board with this movement, especially at what is the most important time in their history. But the clock is ticking. The new age is coming, and it is coming very, very soon. Jacobs thanks Mick Foley earnestly for everything he has done, saying that without his input, this wouldn't have been possible. Project 10 has been in place since the day he stepped foot in TNA Wrestling, and he's been waiting for this moment for 10 months. It is now just a few steps away, so very much putting across that the big moment that we're talking about is coming very, very soon, and with Bound for Glory just around the corner, the commentators wonder if this new age, the explosion that we're expecting, is going to have something to do with 10, 10, 10, the Project 10 Cubed storyline continuing. Jimmy Jacobs performing poorly in the segment, Mick Foley coming across well, but a 63 segment gaining heat to the storyline is what we like to see. We then switch gears towards the no disqualifications match between Tara and Jazz. The commentators introducing footage from last month's pay-per-view when Jazz controversially picked up a victory after producing a weapon that she'd stowed away with her family at ringside. Since then, Tara has picked up a victory over Jazz, albeit by count out, and it was on Impact. This is the second time they've faced on pay-per-view, and the final match between them tonight. Everything is legal, there'll be no countouts, and as a result, there can be no excuses when one woman has her arm raised at the end of the match. So this has been the storyline for Tara after losing the Knockouts Championship. We wanted to move her away from the title just for a while because she had held the title for pretty much all the year, and I thought this was a good rivalry to have her in. It's not rated so well because Jazz isn't very over, but I think in terms of how it would come across if this happened in reality, I think these two would have great matches, particularly in this no disqualifications match. It's again showing what the knockouts in TNA can do compared to the Divas in WWE. It's not something that we're explicitly stating, but it's pretty clear when you see this match, which was booked as a mayhem match with a decisive finish, that the knockouts are very different to what you would have seen on WWE at this time, and Tara picks up the victory with a widow's peak, somehow with a weapon involved. A 59 from Tara is a solid rating. She has got better than that in the past, but decent. Jazz still pretty low, but we explained that earlier, so no surprise there. Tara stands tall following her victory and makes it clear that she now intends to put her issues with Jazz behind her. Instead, her focus is on the Knockouts Championship. She indicates this by gesturing around her waist. She lost the title in the Queen of the Mountain match at Slammiversary. She was screwed out from her rematch because of Jazz, but now her focus, with Bound for Glory right in front of us, is to get her Knockouts Championship back. Whether she'll be able to work her way up the contendership rankings, we'll find out again over this final 4 weeks to the pay-per-view, which is promoted next with a video package live from the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida. The event will take place 4 weeks from tonight on 10/10/10. The commercial puts over the stars who will be appearing at the event and heavily features AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and Sting. Out of the video package, the commentators remind us that Sting is in the building tonight and will appear later on the show. He has a specific member of the roster that he wants to call out, and he'll do that later at No Surrender. We then go into the World Tag Team Championships match. The backstory to this, of course, is that Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team earned the right to face Motor City Machine Guns, but were then taken out of this match because of a recurring injury that was exasperated by Matt Morgan getting involved in a match between Bad Influence and Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team as a result of the number one contendership match a few weeks ago, which was an elimination match. Kazarian and Daniels were the second last team in that match, eliminated by Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, so they were used as the replacements despite what they'd done. So there's a little bit of heat in this match between the Motor City Machine Guns, who wanted that dream match with Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, and we see that in 14 minutes and 21 in a good match. A 60 is an okay rating. It's not where we want the tag team division to be. The Motor City Machine Guns make defense number 1 of the World Tag Team titles that they won last month at Hard Justice, with a Made in Detroit by Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin to Frankie Kazarian. Daniels is slowly but surely going down in his individual ratings, which probably shows that I've not booked him that well and his momentum is on the wane. In the future, I do think that they will hold World Tag Team titles, but for now, we are trying to push Motor City Machine Guns, who slowly but surely as well are getting a little bit better. So good to see Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin always having great chemistry. Happy with that match, and afterwards it's again the same thing that we've been putting over. They are going now into Bound for Glory as the champions. It's been pretty formulaic. Every time a champion has either won a title or retained it, we've put over that, because everything now is about putting the eggs into the Bound for Glory basket. They're leaving with their titles and are guaranteeing themselves a match at the pay-per-view. The commentators suggest that while Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team will be waiting in the wings if they're cleared in time, they'll certainly not be the only team with their eyes on the champions. Immediately Beer Money come to mind, but there's plenty of other teams in the division who will be after the gold. Sting then makes his much anticipated return, the first time we've seen him since he teamed with AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy at Slammiversary. The Icon puts this over, reminding the fans of this once he's in the ring, and he says that it is great to be back inside the six sides for the first time since Slammiversary. Before then, it was Bound for Glory 2009, but he's not just here because it's a big show. In fact, he's not here to talk about any event at all. He's here to talk about a person. Somebody who nobody has seen since Hard Justice, but one of the most popular wrestlers in the world today, Jeff Hardy. Without giving anything else away, he says that they need to talk, and he wants to see him this Thursday on Impact. The Icon is then cut off by Mr. Anderson. He promised on Thursday night's Impact to ruin someone's day at No Surrender, and it seems that he's gone for the biggest target, Sting, as the person who he is going to mess with. However, as Anderson runs down Sting on the microphone and then approaches him in the ring, the Icon pulls a baseball bat from his inside jacket pocket. Sting is always prepared. The two guys exchange a few words before Anderson realises that he is not in the best position to be trying to start something with Sting, who has a weapon in hand. Anderson instead decides that he's just going to run his mouth and then not take it any further. Sting reminds Jeff Hardy as Anderson leaves that he is serious about seeing him and he wants him to be at Impact on Thursday night. So it's not a very good rating. I've noticed that Sting, because I've not used him much, his momentum is really low, but I'm using him as a special attraction, so I don't see what I can really do to stop that from happening. Unfortunately, it does mean that his segments will be less good than they should have been. Mr. Anderson's another one who probably doesn't have that good of momentum, so it's just two people who aren't that hot at the minute coming together. I'd expect this to be getting in the 80s realistically if both of them were at the top of their game. I actually watched a segment between Anderson and Sting a few days ago, so Anderson was actually introducing himself to Sting at that point, saying that he is the asshole, so something similar to that. Getting the crowd hotter though, so it can't have been that bad of a segment. Happy to see Sting back, and we are setting up his meeting with Jeff Hardy for Thursday night on Impact. We then go into the Knockouts Championship match, and Madison Rayne, we talked in the build about her always seemingly having a plan, but she's very much become stuck with something to overcome Awesome Kong. She tries many tactics throughout the match, cheating at every turn, but the referee, who isn't Earl Hebner, is sharp to this. They know everything that she's going to try, and as such, she does last a little bit longer, but in 8 minutes 4 seconds, she is defeated by Awesome Kong, who makes defense number 1 of her Knockouts Championship. The two women in the match were actually pretty similarly rated. We put this in to bring the crowd down a little just before the main event, because I want Kurt and Joe to have a really good match, and you need the peaks and troughs in the perfect show theory. The two of them, like I said, are very similarly matched. In my mind, Kong is just such a great performer and a great presence to have in the division that I'd expect her to be a lot higher than the other women in the division, but it's actually showing that Madison Rayne can hold her own, and she's done a really good job in what is a decent match, but the booking notes were that will calm the crowd, so I can't blame them that it's not any better. After the match, Awesome Kong stands tall, having confirmed her place at Bound for Glory by retaining the Knockouts Championship with a number of potential suitors. Sara Del Rey's already shown her interest, Tara made it clear that she wants the title at Bound for Glory, and of course the rest of the Knockouts locker room. The commentators wonder who will be first in line for a title shot or next in line for a title shot in 4 weeks at the biggest show of the year. We then turn attention to the main event, but before that, Paul Heyman is shown in his office, where he addresses the viewers of No Surrender. He puts over the events of this pay-per-view so far. He's really happy with what he's seen before turning attention to this Thursday's Impact. Paul Heyman highlights that the main event is still to come tonight and reminds viewers that they can't miss the fallout to No Surrender on Thursday. Not only will the latest TNA signing be at the show, that free agent that we hyped on Impact, but he's had confirmation from Jeff Hardy himself already that the charismatic Enigma will return to TNA. He's been at home nursing injuries, but he will be back this Thursday on Impact. Before then, however, he introduces a video package which looks at the extensive history of our two main eventers, Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. It's only a 69. I think I set this only as a 2-minute segment, so that's why it's not getting anything better than that. But Paul, of course, does well without a script, and that is the first time that we see him using that new catchphrase. I'm assuming the only catchphrase that I can think of that Paul Heyman's been using in recent years is "My name is Paul Heyman," so perhaps that's how he begins his promos now. He didn't do it before he came back with Brock Lesnar in 2012, I don't think, but we can say that he's brought in a couple of years early here in TNA. The video package then highlights the importance of this main event by chronicling the storied history between Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. We dub the rivalry as the most iconic in TNA history. Whether people agree with that, it's certainly how we're going to try and push and present this match. From the moment that Kurt Angle stepped foot in TNA, these two men have been linked in one way or another. They've been allies, they've more often than not been rivals, but this tension that has maintained throughout the 4-year spell that both have been in the company is always just a single confrontation from boiling over. The idea is that as long as these two guys are in TNA, they're always going to be linked somehow. The contrast between their first meeting in 2006, when Kurt Angle headbutted Samoa Joe to mark his arrival in TNA, and their most recent clash, where Samoa Joe returned the favour, shows that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Tonight, two of the most legitimate competitors to have ever stepped foot in a professional wrestling ring go one-on-one once more. The winner heads into Bound for Glory as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And the main event gets an 83 rating. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit underwhelmed by that. I think Bobby Lashley and Kurt Angle still our best match yet, and I don't know whether that was because of the booking notes I used. It surprised me when it was that good at Slammiversary. Maybe it was the size of the event also helped that, but it's probably one of the top 5 matches we've booked, but I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. I really wanted Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, with their great chemistry that they have, to hit it out of the park. Mauro Ranallo was pretty weak at the announcing desk, so that is again another thing that, especially for Bound for Glory now, I am going to bring Mike Tenay in and I think do a 3-man booth, just in the hopes that it can give those matches the edge that will push it from being a good pay-per-view to being the best pay-per-view that we've done. I really, really want Bound for Glory to stand head and shoulders above everything else we've done. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, so I've not got control over whether it will be, but with what I've got planned, I do think that we're giving the wrestlers and everybody the best chance to put on the best show of the year. The match got the crowd buzzing, and in 27 minutes and 53, these guys know each other so well. Pretty sure I had it as a called in the ring, so moments where it does risk boiling over into a double count out, a DQ, things like that, I really want to put over the aggression that these two have towards one another. They're not even like bitter rivals at the minute. It's not that they hate each other, it's just one of those things of when you get two alpha males going head to head, these sparks fly, and this is what happens. The finish comes when Kurt Angle escapes from an attempted muscle buster, and we end up with both men on the second rope. Kurt Angle hitting a super angle slam to Samoa Joe. I didn't want Joe tapping out here, so Kurt Angle's 7th defense of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship comes via pinfall. A 97 from Kurt Angle. He's almost perfect. It might be that we can get a 99 out of 100 from him as we go into the season finale at Bound for Glory, but realistically, I don't think Kurt Angle can possibly get any better than he currently is. Samoa Joe with a 90, so it's always disappointing when the match rating ends up being significantly lower. It indicates to me probably that my booking choices weren't the best. Poor announcing and the low heat to the storyline, which is something that has plagued my main events on pay-per-views throughout the series. I can't complain too much. Samoa Joe with a 98, so the two guys have done as well as they possibly can. Really happy with that, and as it always seems to be, I'll be praising Samoa Joe, AJ Styles and Kurt Angle at the end of the show because they are the three standout guys. Following the main event, Kurt Angle is barely able to celebrate. We really want to put over that Samoa Joe took him to his absolute limit, but somehow Kurt Angle overcame and he has his arm raised as he is handed the World Heavyweight Championship. Kurt will now have to turn his attention towards Bound for Glory. Samoa Joe, like I said, put over on commentary as one of the most legitimate men to ever step foot in a wrestling ring, any era, any company. There are very few people who could match up to Samoa Joe, but tonight Kurt Angle did, and the night belongs to the Olympic gold medalist. Quite simply, the best wrestler to ever step foot in a wrestling ring. The commentators point out the fact that AJ Styles has his eye on a title shot against the man who beat him at Lockdown 2010, and he made that clear also earlier in the night with his promo. Anything can happen in the weeks leading up to Bound for Glory. Thursday night on Impact will be the only place to see all the fallout from the World Heavyweight Championship match and more, as the final stretch of the build to Bound for Glory 10-10-10 begins live on Spike TV. Only a 70 for Kurt Angle's post-match celebration there is pretty bad as well, but I'm just going to quickly praise those three guys because of what an excellent job they did, and we'll see if there's any major stories after the pay-per-view. Again, I'm not going to go into the office because there's people who have got set to debut and I don't want to spoil any of that, but we can see Impact finishes its run on Challenge, so I need to make sure, I think I've already set up. Those are just because pay-per-view one is because they wanted an exclusive and I've got bigger pay-per-view providers, so I don't need to worry about In Demand and us finishing our run. But I think I've changed Impact to being on Channel 5, is it? I've definitely got a new provider anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. There's no big news stories. We'll see what the pay-per-view buy rate was. So I think that's about where we've been. Again, I don't want to go into any other screens because I'm worried about giving away spoilers unintentionally. Okada once again getting praised, this time by road agent Scott D'Amore. There's plenty of other things that I need to deal with before I get to the next show, but thanks for watching the pay-per-view. Hopefully it lived up to expectations, and we are now on the all-important part of the year. I built up Slammiversary back in June, but I'm going to hammer this home even more. I cannot wait for Bound for Glory 10-10-10, the biggest event in the history of TNA. Certainly Paul Heyman's going to try and sell it as such anyway. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll be back very, very soon to begin the build to Bound for Glory.